1460 WVOX.
Stay tuned now for the Racing for Heroes radio show with host Brett Morash on 1460 WVOX.
All right, good morning, Racing for Heroes fans. It is Brett Morash. We are at 1460 on WVOX, streaming worldwide, VOX.com. We have a couple of great guests today, and in the studio, helping me out is Julia Morash, my daughter, who has actually done some of the kid programs at Racing for Heroes. So say hi, Julia.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Julia. So our first guest is Mr. Don Holford, who I was fortunate enough to work with, and I consider him my mentor. Don worked with me at Services the Underserved, helping homeless veterans, and both of us have subsequently moved on from SUS. And he is now the Chief Financial Officer at Serve Behavioral Service in New Jersey, where he helps veterans, among other groups, with everything from homelessness to addiction. And he is a veteran of the U.S. Army, having served in the reserve component, but he was actually activated for the U.S. Postal Service strike of 1970, which was a little before I was born, but not much. Anyway, so Don, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here, Brett. You can hear me.
I hear you, Lee Charlie. So thank you for being on the show today, Don.
Well, thanks for having me.
And go ahead, Don.
I just want to say I do not consider, even though I spent time in the reserves and my time during Operation Graphic Hand, which we'll talk a little bit about, was considered active duty for training, I do not consider myself in the same status as those vets who served and, honored the call when they were called, either through the draft or who enlisted. And for those who are listening, I just want to say I thank you for your service, because having lived through those times and, other times and stories my father told about World War II, you guys, I do not consider myself to be in the same category. So thank you for your service.
And thank you, Don. Listen, I think that one of the things that I always think about when I think about reservists, especially when you're going through something like Penn Station or Grand Central Terminal, is you see folks that are activated that are not really considered veterans, but they're still an important piece of that, and that capability really helped out in 1970. So let's just jump right into that, Don. So young kid, Don Holford, Jersey kid, ends up at Fort Dix. Go.
Well, actually, I was a Brooklyn kid then, as you probably pick up from my dialect. I still, while I live in Jersey, my roots are in Brooklyn, and that's, I can speak Brooklynese. I'm still fluent. So really, just kind of the backdrop on it was in December of 1969. There was the first lottery for the draft. It was a way of giving young people some control over their lives. I had, unlike most of my friends from my neighborhood who went to high school and then pretty much got blue-collar jobs, I was fortunate to be able to go to college. So in between the time that they turned 18 and they were 19 a few months, I had an older brother. Their lives were in limbo. And for guys who were in college, the draft was something that was always hanging over their head.
For sure.
If you wanted to take time off to, go figure out what you really wanted to be when you grew up, you couldn't do it.
Right.
So the first lottery was an attempt to give you some control. I remember being in a bar where it was packed, and they were picking numbers from a big drum. And any numbers that were over 160, 170 were pretty safe, that if you opted to be in the lottery, you wouldn't get called, and then you were home scot-free. And I remember anybody who had a number over 200, they were usually buying drinks for the rest of the night.
Sure.
Unfortunately, in my case, I was number 125, so I really didn't have any more certainty than I had before.
Yep.
A friend of mine who was an older guy I played ball with was in a reserve unit. He was getting ready to get out. It was the 518th Maintenance Battalion. It was in Queens, located adjacent to St. John's College. And he told me that they were going to be opening up, enrollments, but I needed to get down quickly. So, knowing my situation, in February I went down. I waited on a line. I was able to get in, and I got sworn in on March 23rd of 1970. So about 5:30 in the morning on March 24th, I got a phone call, and it said, "Is this Private Donald W. Holford?"
Wait a second. That's one day after you got signed on the dotted line.
One day after I got sworn in, and I thought for sure it was one of my friends, messing around. And I said, "Come on, you don't even have my telephone number, cut the crap." And he said,
"Right,
Holford, if you're not down at the 518th Maintenance Battalion Company by 0800 hours, your private parts will be in Vietnam in 6 months." So with that, I got up.
Now, Don, let me stop you for a second. Did he say it more colorfully than that, or was that?
He did, yes. But knowing that your young daughter is in the
and we're on the air, so this is like over the airways. FCC would be very angry with me.
My butte was another word for buttocks. Okay, so
gotcha.
So I put on clothing. It was still a little nippy. I go down, and lo and behold, there are a bunch of guys who were in uniform who were also getting out of their cars, half asleep as I was, and the company had been activated. So here we are. My first day. I'm in civilian clothes with probably another dozen guys who I remember enlisting with, and we're in formation. We're trying to not stand out, but how do you do that when everybody else has got a uniform on?
Right.
And I hear the announcements, yada yada yada, and then there was an announcement that if people missed more than 2 weekend drills in a year, they would be activated for Vietnam, and they read off the names of 3 guys for whom that is. And as it turned out, I spent 5 years in the reserve.
Yeah. And
for every drill that I was at for those 5 years, those are the only 3 names I ever heard.
Thankfully.
Getting out. And so here we are. So because I knew how to type, and my friend had worked in payroll, I got in, and I remember when we got sworn in, there was a sergeant major, a guy named Carmine DeSogra. I'll never forget, a real earthy guy, a real decent guy. And I remember when he saw me, and he was asking people their numbers, lottery numbers, because that's why people were showing up. And I told him 125, and he said to me, "Oh, you're the top dog on the second list."
Oh, wow.
And that was so anyway. So I spent the first couple of days, typing in payroll, and then I was kind of an observer. As I saw for the first day, there were officers who pretty much, the reserves then were not like the reserves now. It was there was a draft. There was no shortage of men for Vietnam. The draft was there, but it didn't play the same role that the reserves were there, but it didn't play the same role that the reserves do now.
Sure.
Because of the enlisted army. So I'm watching officers and non-commissioned officers really kind of running around like chickens without their heads. And all they kept saying was, "We've been federalized. We've been federalized." So,
and what was the name of this operation, Don?
The operation, as all military operations are named. This was Operation Graphic Hand.
And Don, I don't want to slow you down, but we are getting a little close on time. I did want Julia had a question for you about the Operation Graphic Hand. So Julie, what's your question?
So why were they? What was wrong with the wages that they were protesting to get fixed?
Apparently the postal workers had some issues with wages, and under I believe it was the Taft-Hartley Act. I wasn't sure, but as government employees, they were prohibited. The Postal Service then was a fully government entity. They were prohibited from striking, and this was not the first time that there had been a strike by unions working for government. I remember being in high school when the transit strike first happened in 1966. So this was one of those situations where they were going to, push the envelope. And because at that time, and it was pre-internet, everything that went in the mail could have implications for national security.
Yep.
It became a concern for national security that the mail still had to be delivered. So
gotcha.
That's kind of the way it happened.
And so, Don, kind of follow-on question. I and of course, as you know, Racing for Heroes is all about automotives and motorsports. I heard things didn't go so well with the Army trucks that you had.
Well, the first day we really spent, kind of trying to get things together. That was the 24th. So by the end of the 24th, the 25th, the assignments had been worked out, and our trucks were supposed to go to the Farley station right near Penn Station in Manhattan.
Oh, sure.
So, it being a maintenance company, they were going to have what they called deuce and a half. The large trucks were going to go, and then they were supposed to go to the Farley station, and then they were going to get assignments on where to deliver mail. So I guess it was around, 9 o'clock in the morning after we had formation and everything. Trucks are going out. And then because I worked in payroll, I was in the area not too far from the Sergeant Major was there. We had a 201 section where they kept records and record keeping, and it was kind of in the communications hub.
Gotcha.
And then I remember the company commander getting a phone call, and it was, along the lines of what happened? Where did it happen?
No.
And apparently the trucks broke down on the Williamsburg Bridge.
That's amazing.
So now we had 2 tow trucks in the unit, and then they dispatched the 2 tow trucks. And the 2 tow trucks go out. Now it must have been about, 12 o'clock. And then the 2 tow trucks go out. And then I guess it was another couple of hours later, the company commander gets a call, and he said, "You've got to be kidding me."
Oh, gosh.
And then he mentioned to Sergeant Major DeSogra, who he was there. He said, "Top, you're not gonna believe this." He said, "But the tow trucks just broke down." So DeSogra had been around a long time, and he said, "Well, sir," he said, "we're going to have to go to another backup plan." And then the captain, I remember going to the Sergeant Major saying, "Sergeant Major, what might that be?" And then the Sergeant Major said, "I think, sir, that would be something we need to talk about in private." So they leave. They go into the office of the battalion commander, a guy named Lee Mazza, who was an executive with the telephone company. He was a lieutenant colonel.
Oh, okay.
And then the next thing I know, they come back and they said, "Okay, we're activating Plan C."
Oh, so they even went past Plan B. That's not good.
No. So basically, and now there was buzz in the office about what's Plan C. The trucks are gone. The
tow trucks are broken.
The tow trucks are gone. What's Plan C? Well, it was almost top secret until later on. Somebody was outside and they came back in, and they came in and they sat down and said, "You won't effing believe what Plan C is." And so here we are. He says, "If you get a chance to go outside," and I only wish that we had cell phones. We could have taken pictures. So there we are. We have AAA.
Yep. AAA.
Back our trucks, and then bringing back our trucks.
So AAA saved the day. Is the
AAA saved the day, and it was not the one of the brightest moments of Operation Grab.
No, it was not. It was not. But listen, I think that's all important stuff, and it does show you that our equipment is built by the lowest bidder, especially the gear that's in the reserve component. So, and Don, I'm so sorry. We're out of time. I have our next guest on the phone, so I just want to thank you again for all you've done.
Well, listen, thank you all, and again, thanks to all the vets. And one of the things we do give thanks for is your service. So God bless you all, Brett. We'll keep in touch and wish everybody a safe holiday.
Thank you so much, and take care, Don. So with that, our next guest is Dan Miller, who actually is not only still on active duty in the Army as a sergeant first class, but is an entrepreneur and has started his own brewery just outside of Fayetteville, North Carolina, where Fort Bragg is located. But he has done just amazing things in his career, and he is currently, in his active duty role, the Airborne Program Manager at the 4th PsyOps Group. So, Danny, on the line?
Yep, I'm here. How's it going, Brett?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, I'm good. Recovering from the feast last night.
Oh, yeah, for sure. How did that go? Are you okay? You're still awake and, up before 6 o'clock, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I slept in.
Good man.
But, yeah, no, it went well. I had a good friend come from Virginia. Small group, we're trying to stay socially distanced so we can only fit a certain number of people in our dining room.
Oh, Roger.
Three of us, me, my wife, and my buddy Brendan.
Gotcha. I don't know if that would go here in New York, but I'm hopeful that in North Carolina that was well within the COVID guidelines.
Yeah.
Well, especially since you're on active duty, I know they take that seriously. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is first, what do you do? I think people hear psychological operations and they think of 1960s, like with LSD or something like that with the Army, but that's not really what PsyOps does, right? Tell us a little bit about PsyOps.
No, it totally is. Just watch the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, and all that's true.
Well, it was, but not so much now, though, right?
Right. The instructor answer would be that the psychological operations mission is to influence a behavior change in a foreign target audience in support of U.S. national objectives. So what does that mean? Basically, it's a military strategy or tactic to try to influence changes in behavior with not necessarily an enemy, but with any kind of foreign
target audience. Yeah.
Right. In order to prevent bloodshed. That's one way to kind of describe it.
Well, so I was a Navy guy, as you know. I remember passing out leaflets to the ships that we were boarding, looking for illicit material and kind of pre-Iraq invasion. That would be something that PsyOps would put together, right?
Yes, I think leaflets that were always intertwined with PSYOP history, that and loudspeaker operations. When I was teaching in the Special Warfare Center in school, so after graduating, I got some practical experience, and then, like everybody else in special operations, you inevitably go back to being an instructor.
Right.
But I would try to steer the students away from focusing on leaflets and loudspeakers. There is more about what we do. Not all of it we can necessarily discuss on the radio.
Of course,
but those are the more overt things. I also try to de-emphasize all of the leaflet kind of stuff because realistically, you're kind of just dropping a bunch of litter on top of someone's country. Although the reality of that is modern day times, a lot of the leaflets are printed on like a quickly biodegradable rice paper.
No kidding.
It kind of just melts after the first one or two rains.
See that? Who knew that the U.S. Army would be making green leaflets that would rot to make sure that it's green? Like, see, that is forward leaning? I'm sure we're the only country that does it like that. Maybe the Swiss. Maybe the Swiss don't.
Yeah, we care.
We care. So, and one of the things when we talked about your job now, you told me about these helmets. I guess, being a Navy guy, you think of the Army as everyone has the same helmet. I went through Fort Jackson. They actually, my head's so big they had to give me a special helmet, but which that's another story for another time. But I heard that there's more than one type of jump helmet available. And you're the expert of the world on
if you're giving me the soapbox to stand on, I heard you talking to Don about limited time. I think we're going to run out of time talking about helmets. But long story short, with the modern advances in technology, all the different companies out there that produce armor and everything else, or even sporting good producers, come up with their own military helmets and try to market them. And the issue we're running into is the individual soldier going out, buying a specialized helmet, and then The problem is, although they're good helmets or they may be ballistic rated, until the helmets are actually tested by the Airborne and Special Operations Test Board, you can't jump them.
Oh, wow.
But they could be perfect helmets. They just have to get tested first before they're authorized. So we're running into an issue kind of codifying all the different helmets out there. There's easily 50-plus new helmets that come out.
Well, I just looked on Amazon today, and there's like 100. And I thought the $20 one probably wouldn't be very good, but I don't know. So I think
we go out there and see helmets and Google, because of course I'm not going to be familiar with every helmet that comes out on the planet, and a lot of them are airsoft helmets. So we have people showing up. So we're constantly, as jump masters, looking at who's showing up to these jumps, and then making sure that people don't jump with airsoft equipment.
Gotcha. Hey, so let's shift gears here. So tell us about Heckler Brewery. Great name, and right outside of the outside the base. And Julia had a quick question.
How are you guys doing with COVID conditions?
Well, we'll ask that last. Okay.
Oh,
okay. Right. Yeah, but she was going to ask what type of beer do you brew too. So just add that in there. So
I missed it. Kind of broke up.
Oh, so sorry. So in Fayetteville, you opened your own brewery, Heckler Brewery. Tell us about Heckler Brewery.
Oh, yeah. So it's a startup microbrewery in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So we're right next to Fort Bragg. My thing is to open a craft brewery that produces very drinkable beer. You go out, and you see a lot of other people's craft breweries, and you look down the list, you might just want something easy to drink. And you look down their menu, and the lowest alcohol percentage is 5.5%, 6.5%, something percent, with 8 trillion IBUs worth of bitterness and hops. My craft brewery is going to have its line of unconventional and very crafty beers, but it'll have 5 or 6 core flagship beers that are really marketed towards the macro beer consumer. So all of you out there listening in that like Budweiser and Heineken, Miller, Coors products, different stuff.
Sure.
We're trying to build a craft brewery to cater to you. So you can get into craft beer without running the risk of having too much alcohol or too many hop flavors and being overwhelmed by what really I would say is only created for a niche market. We're trying to become a craft brewery that produces a macro brew style beer.
A type of beer people want to drink. That's amazing. That's great. And what I think you mentioned was going to be a red ale was the first one you're talking about?
Yep. Not my favorite kind of beer, so obviously I put a lot of effort into it. So right now we have an Irish red ale, although I think I might drop the Irish part. Not that I have anything. I'm actually half Irish, and my wife is probably whole Irish.
Gotcha.
Just to make it a little bit more international, we'll just call it a red ale.
Gotcha. Gotcha. No, it's great. I'm looking.
Yeah, it's 4.2% alcohol. Low
nice.
bitterness, fits well within the standard of an Irish red ale.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Unbelievably crafty. So any Bud Light drinker would enjoy it. In fact, we're getting a lot of Bud Light converts who are starting to try this red ale.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. So when I have a chance to get down there, when COVID allows. So that's awesome. Hey, so we don't have a whole lot of time yet, so I do want to talk about racing. So I know you won a race in Race for Heroes colors or something along those lines about 2 years ago. Tell us about racing.
Yeah, so a buddy of mine in the Army got me into racing, this guy Adam Benway, who's, him, he's another Race for Heroes contributor. So he got me into racing, started me out with autocross, which sounds underwhelming over the phone when you say it's driving around cones in a big parking lot, but it's actually very technical, and I highly recommend starting with racing, starting with autocross racing, because it's all about car control and precision driving. It's very unforgiving, although it is very safe. From there, though, I continue to move up, not necessarily move up, but I continue to expand in my racing repertoire. I ended up going to the Skip Barber Racing School when, unfortunately, they closed recently. Actually.
Oh, it's gone? No more?
They someone else bought the name and brought it back, but the original one that I went through had kind of reformed. But I did a Formula Mazda course to get my full racing license, and I was down in Road Atlanta. But with all of that, both Adam and I had kind of heard about Racing for Heroes back in 2016 or so when they had started. began volunteering with them as drivers and also instructors during a lot of the outreach events and track day events that they would put on at Virginia International Raceway.
Yep.
But that photo I sent you earlier, that was, I think, our first victory, our first place win in our it was a fourth generation Camaro with the
Nice.
IROC body style Camaros.
That's sweet.
So we ended up over the course of 2 or 3 seasons in Champ Car. It's just endurance racing series.
Right.
They have we were second place, and then first in class, and I want to say second or third overall, and then a first in class and first overall. I think is our most recent
That's
one.
amazing. And are you going to be up at our the charity laps on Saturday the 5th?
Yeah, I'm really planning on it. The only reason why I wouldn't be able to make it up there is if I have to do any kind of final preparations for the brewery opening.
Of course.
But I think at the rate we're going, I should be able to make it up there.
That's great. And listen, we're running short on time. So if you could just put it out there for everyone, what's the website so people can log in and see what you have to sell and when you're opening up?
Oh, I get a plug. Very nice. Thank you. So the website is hecklerbeer.com. Instagram and Facebook is Heckler or at Heckler Brewing. We're hopefully going to open up this year. I'm shooting for mid-December to late December as a grand opening, just to say, hey, I opened in 2020. Because legally, we incorporated in January.
Awesome.
And just through COVID and everything else, it took forever. But otherwise, we should be in full production in January. Online, we'll have various apparel that you can purchase if you want to support us. We have our COVID-19 Doesn't Stop a Heckler T-shirts. And we'll put growlers and
awesome. Well,
merchandise.
And that's our theme song. I'm so sorry, Dan. I gotta cut you short, but listen, that theme song does mean it is the end of the show. So, Dan, thank you for everything you do, and please thank you for keeping us safe.
Yeah, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yep, and you too. So thanks for being on. So thanks, everyone.